Welcome to Passive Aggressive Income. This program may contain strong language. The content may not be suitable for audiences under the age of 17. We understand many of our listeners may not agree with all of our personal viewpoints. We in no way, shape, or form mean to be offensive to anyone. Our show notes will provide all of our source material included for each episode. Now let's get passive aggressive.
Hello and welcome back to another week of Passive Aggressive Income. Super excited to have you guys here back listening for another week. This week, Mims is taking the lead again on another real estate topic. We've got just a couple more before we switch topics. This week we are going to be discussing mailers, how Mims has used that strategy, what they're for, some tips that she has. So let's get into it.
Great. So as Lexi said, we are talking about mailers. I just love them. So you're probably wondering, what are mailers? My husband and I use mailers as a form of reaching out to local real estate owners. They are a great way to bring in new leads and getting your name out there just for awareness that, hey, I'm here, I'm buying a property. So if you ever want to offload, we are interested. Our mailers have our picture on it, our contact information, so who we are and what we are looking to achieve. Our mailers are sleek and everything outlined on it is clearly states that we are interested in connecting with them about their real estate investments that they currently own. So essentially, like I mentioned before, it's like cold calling. And when it comes to physical mail, old timers still check their mail and they really love this type of communication. So don't sleep on it. It's a really great way to get your name out there. And I actually have a pack of my mailers with me. So this is what they look like for the people that are watching on YouTube. So it has that real estate vibe to it. It has a snippet of like what we're looking for, our email and contact information, then a picture of us just to give them a personal touch.
Yeah, I love that because I've actually received mailers before, especially like when my with my first duplex after I had first bought it and it was a flip. So previous to me buying it, it was just a complete disaster.
Yeah.
And so I received a mailer and it was super like not personal, did not have any of the nice touches or like beautiful design aspects that yours does. And we're just like, oh, like, well, number one, this wasn't relevant to us. But number two, it's just like this just kind of shitty, like doesn't look super
Right.
personal. So there's definitely like a right and wrong way to do it.
For sure. And, we've gone them too. So basically, it's if your investment property is the ugly duckling, you're going to get them. I promise you that. We do that strategy as well. We include ugly ducklings, but anything that fits our criteria, that's what we send them out to. But we've received them and they look similar to ours, or they're like a doc, and it's kind of like you input the information, then it autofills, and it's like a letter. We've also received like handwritten letters that I'm not a huge fan of. It just doesn't have that like professionalism that I'm looking for if I did want to sell or offload or anything like that. So keep that in mind, that what you're sending out is a representation of you. So just make sure that it looks nice and professional when you do that.
Right. And something like a handwritten letter might be nice for like, older people who are like, oh, that's really great. But you can look and see, like do a little bit of investigating and figure out like who owns this property and see if you can get their names and find a little bit of information out about them. Like, Facebook is a good resource to find out people like what they're about. So just know your target audience too if you're planning on sending something out on like what design aspect might work better or what strategy might work better than another.
Right. So why do we use mailers? If we come across a property while we are out and about that really fits our criteria and what we're looking for, we send the property owner our mailer. It is a great way for connecting with local real estate investors, opening lines of communication, and for finding properties that are not listed on the MLS or for sale by owner. So this is off-market properties that would go under contract. So it's basically you are making the deal happen out of thin air. But that's what happens sometimes. You get really good deals that way because maybe that person wasn't thinking about selling until they got your mailer and they're like, well, you know what? It's been a pain in my ass for a long time. I have a lot of them. I'm dealing with a lot. I'm 60 years old. I'm 70 years old, or I just got married and I have a ton of kids, or you know what I mean? Like there's different stages in people's lives. And once that mailer hits, it could be that perfect stage in their life that they're like, you know what, I'm done with this property.
Yeah, and that's I think where some of the like ugly ducklings come in, where it's like, this person's not really taking care of the property. Do they really even want the responsibility of having this place?
Right. Do they
Good
have
opportunity for
time?
knocking on their door. Hey, can I buy your place? I'm like, oh my God, thank you. I don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah, and that's totally a thing. We have done that and we've sat down with people because of those properties that were falling apart, or the landscape is really huge and it's like not being kept up on. That's one of the things that you should look out for though. So I'm actually going to touch base with that about that before I dive into the next segment here. So when you're looking for properties in your area, look for things like really big bushes in front of the house, because then it's just really not being kept up on. Or the tall grass is another great indicator as well. Just really poor conditions where you can get in there and then you can get your money back when you have invested in it, and you can get probably the lowest amount for it because it's not in great condition as well. So other things to look out for is, I don't know, I'm seeing like a lot of broken down vehicles in the driveway. I'm just like really things that you don't want at first. Like, I wouldn't want to have this, but then it's like, well, great, maybe they don't want to have it either.
Right. Try and like pass the like cosmetic things that are easily fixable.
For sure. So, what do we do with the mailers? So, when we find a property in our area that we like, we write it down and save it in our database. So we know that, and maybe we send it out 50 times, but we have that address still and the property owner's info so that maybe on the fifth time they're like, okay, I've had enough. I'm going to contact them. You know what I mean? So we keep hitting them and hitting them and hitting them because it's all about being persistent in this game. And if you really want something, you really have to like keep going at it. So I highly suggest going. If you don't hear it after a year or 2 years, 3 years, it doesn't matter. Just keep going because like I said, you're going to come across people at different stages in their lives. So maybe it's a lot of cash flow is coming in for that person. They're like, why would I want to sell this? But then maybe something happens and they really need the money really quick. You know what I mean?
Right.
However, what I typically do is go on the county parcel finder and go in different areas where there are duplexes, small apartment complexes, triplexes, and hammer out at least 50 to 75 mailers. When I do it this way, I put our mailer a little note of the type of property that we are contacting them about, along with like a personal greeting, so it's going to be one of these, and then a handwritten note saying like, hey, I seen your property the other day when I was driving around. I really love its orange color, something that like they know it's their duplex in
It's
Appleton. You
not
know what I
just,
mean?
yeah, like over processed being sent out to everybody.
Right, exactly. And I also put our business cards as well. So everything's in there. There's no way that they don't know how to contact us. I just add everything in there.
Yeah.
And then we choose bright colored envelopes that stand out. They do not look like a typical envelope, like the white ones that that are regular ones. We get them, unfortunately, from Hobby Lobby. And I say that unfortunately because I don't represent. So,
We are people who accept everybody.
correct.
Unfortunately, Hobby Lobby is sometimes the only option for craft supplies like that.
Correct. Yes. So it's literally the only place that I have found packs of different vibrant color envelopes. So and it's really cheap. It's like $7. So it's just a big pack of square ones and not the long ones. So it just looks like you're getting a personable letter from somebody rather than like a flyer.
Right. It's not junk mail. People are going to be like, what is this? Like, now I'm curious. I need to open it up right now.
Exactly. And some of them were like bright pink or like bright orange. And they're like, what the heck? What is this? So, and then, yeah, people open it up. And I've been fooled a couple times too. And I'm like, they got me.
Right.
Yeah. So I gather the bundle of stuff and I stuff it into the envelopes and send them on their way to hopefully be viewed and read by the owners of the properties.
Hmm. Yeah, and I love what you said about just being persistent too. That's something that I've learned in business with like trying to find new clients is if you send one message, you might not get a response. If you follow up with them, and again, if you're sending these messages and you're making them really personal and you're like, I've done my research, I actually went to go look at your property, or in my case, like I've looked at your website and these are things that make me want to work with you, then those are
Mm.
just things that are going to make people actually stop and consider and think about what you are proposing.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. So here's the big question. Do mailers actually work? And you kind of have to think about, does cold calling work? Sometimes it does, and sometimes they just want to be like, you're a dickhead and this is not going to ever work, you know? So it just depends on the person and it depends on where they are in life. And in my personal experience, they have worked. We have met and connected with real estate investors in our area that were interested in selling their properties that were off market. So they weren't listed anywhere, they weren't for sale. It was just basically out of thin air that we contacted them. And they were like, you know what, I've been thinking about it. And yeah, I'm interested. So we reviewed a few deals from these interactions and came slightly close to buying at one point, but the deal just did not make sense after everything was said and done. And it's important that when you buy real estate that it just makes sense for both parties. So yes, you want it to be a good smoke show of a deal for you, but the seller also wants to have a good deal as well. So you have to make sure that yeah, I'm asking for this much, or I want to buy it for this much, but my contingencies are this because it's going to help them want to sell it off faster. You know what I mean? So it's got to be
Right.
a win-win situation, not a win-lose.
Yeah, and having that initial interaction can open up opportunities down the road to work with those same people because they've seen, what your contingencies are and what you're
Mhm.
looking for, and that you guys are professional and that you're serious about this. And so if something changes for them in the future, maybe they have another property, all of that time and effort working with them wasn't for nothing.
Right. And that's actually like jumping into my next note that those open doors and open lines of communication will always be there. And if the seller one day changes their mind on the financial aspect of the deal, or we, the buyers, are able to meet their requirements, that ultimately means that the mailer did pay off. It just paid off further down the line. And
Right.
that's the thing about business. It doesn't always happen when you want it to. And it takes a long time to grow and it takes a long time to see the fruits of your labor actually flourish. So don't be impatient. And it's nice to have people in the same industry as you that you meet along the way. I mean, you sit down and have a conversation with them and find out like, hey, they're on the same life path as you. How cool is that? Like it doesn't always have to lead to a deal.
Mhm.
I mean, it would be great if it did, but just the mere fact that you're out there introducing yourself to other people that are like-minded is super awesome.
Yeah, I love that. You're just getting to know people in your community, and I'm sure they have a whole wealth of connections that could be helpful to you too, especially in terms of like maintenance people and
Yes,
other people who might also have real estate that they're planning to sell.
for sure. Absolutely. And so when we've sent out mailers, another tip for that is if when you're looking through the parcel lookup for who the owner is, if you come across somebody that's like, that last name sounds familiar, reach out to that person that you think that is who you think it is, because that's happened to us twice where that person is who we thought it was. And that was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you also own real estate. And then we sat down a couple times and then we've talked about properties. And it's just a really cool way to talk to people that have the same interests as you. So I am going to leave off this episode with a few pieces of advice. Make sure that the flyer is aesthetically pleasing, like we talked about before. And if you are putting your picture on it, that you are getting it professionally done. And I also use Canva to make my flyer, so it wasn't something super fancy and it was free for the most part. I know that you like can get a premium membership if you want to for different types of tools that they have. I didn't do that, but I'm going to show this to you again. I'm going to post it as well, but like that looks like, I don't
Looks
know, I
beautiful.
consider it pretty nice, and
Yeah.
it gets the point across, and it's just one little flyer, so it's not like a huge thing that is super elaborate. It didn't cost me a lot of money. I'm pretty sure like 500 of that was like $20. So it's a good way to get out there. And then make sure that you get envelopes that stand out and do not look like all of the other offers that they're receiving via mail. If it looks like an offer or something that you're trying to sell, most likely it's going to go in the garbage. If you are sending out multiple mailers at a time, it is helpful to buy a stamper with your name and address so that when you are compiling your envelopes, you don't have to write everything out. So it's just write out the person, boom, and then you're done, and then keep on going.
Or like little stickers too.
Yeah, or that. Lastly, when you are driving around and come across an interesting property, make sure to write down the address. Keep a notebook in your car or a note in your phone with property addresses so that you don't forget. Then look the address up in the county parcel finder, and boom, you have the owner's name and address. So just keeping a log of that. Jake and I have, my husband and I, we have different Excel sheets for, Appleton, Kakana, Nina, Menasha, for investors that we found. So then we'll sit down, we'll be like, okay, let's hit Little Shoot today. So then we'll like write 50 of Little Shoot owners, and then we'll send them off. And then, okay, next week, let's do Nina. And then we'll go off of that Excel spreadsheet. And then we know, okay, for this year, we did all of these, and then next year we'll hit these. So then we can continuously hit these people that we want to talk to.
I love that idea. And in our last episode, we talked about going on dates to IKEA. Well,
Yes.
who knew that this podcast also pairs as dating advice, but driving for dollars, driving for
Yes.
dollars and looking at houses together is honestly such a fun way to like spend an afternoon, and you can like envision like, oh, like what would we do with this property? That's just like a really fun way to connect with your significant other or a friend if you're planning on going in on real estate with them.
That is so true. There's been multiple date nights where we're like, let's go get like some ice cream and just drive around and have the dogs in the car with us and have some really awesome music playing and just like look around our area and see what fits our needs. And he'll be driving or vice versa. And I'll just be writing down the addresses. And if one really sticks out, I'll take a picture of it on my phone. And so I can like remember. And with that, when I'm writing it down, I say ugly siding, or I do like big bushes in front, like make sure that you are writing details down if you are driving for dollars as well.
Yes, the documentation is key.
For sure. So that is today's episode of Mailers and Driving for Dollars. I hope that you guys got some little nuggets of knowledge. And yeah, I think we're going to continue on one more episode as of right now for real estate. Next week is going to be rent certificates. They're not fun, but we got to do it.
Necessary evils. Not always the most exciting topics when it comes to real estate, but definitely good information. So thank you so much, Mims, for sharing. I am super excited to create my own mailers because my brain just operates in this like design oriented way. And that sounds super fun. Driving for dollars and looking for more properties when the time comes.
Yeah.
So thank you for your expertise as usual. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye. Passive Aggressive Income was written, recorded, edited, and produced by co-hosts and creators Mims and Lexi. We truly want to thank our listeners, collaborators, friends, and family that continuously support us for all the love we receive. If you enjoy our show, please give us a glowing rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see what we are up to. For any inquiries, please email passiveaggressiveincome2023@gmail.com.
Episodes of Passive Aggressive Income are available wherever you listen to podcasts, so make sure to subscribe and like us on your favorite streaming platform.